Hey guys, welcome to our Week 16 NFL Best Bets video. So we'll be looking at every single game for Week 16 for this NFL season, seeing who's going to win, who's going to lose, but we'll be focusing on the betting portion. So we'll be looking at the spreads, the money lines, and the over-unders. Obviously, the Thursday night game is over. This is Week 16, so we also have Saturday games now because college football's regular season is over. So you have some Saturday games, some Sunday games, and on Christmas Monday, we actually have 3 Monday games this week. So hit that like button and subscribe. And kicking things off on Saturday, December 23rd at 4:30 p.m. on NBC, we have the 8-6 Cincinnati Bengals versus the 7-7 Pittsburgh Steelers. Cincinnati comes into this game. They're 3-point favorites here, and the over-under is 37.5. So when you're looking at these two teams, a lot of injuries. So with the Bengals, they lost Joe Burrow for the season. Jake Browning came in. He's actually been playing better than Joe Burrow so far this year. So he's having a really good season so far as the fill-in. He didn't play too good last week, but prior to that, for the last 2 to 3 weeks, he actually has been going off, throwing for like 350 yards per game. So he's been filling in really good. But the Bengals have a lot of weapons. So they have Browning at quarterback. They have Mixon at running back. They have Chase. But Chase is probably not going to be playing Saturday. I'm pretty sure that as of right now, he's not been cleared. He probably won't be there. That's a big hit. That is the number 1 wide receiver. For the Steelers, Steelers have a really good defense led by TJ Watt. Really strong defense, really weak offense. The biggest issue for the Steelers is the quarterback position. They've had some injuries there, whether it's Pickett, Rudolph, doesn't matter. Whoever starts at quarterback, they're not playing good at all. Steelers cannot score points. That's the main thing holding this team back. But pretty much since Ben Roethlisberger retired, they've had that same problem. So looking at the team stats here, Cincinnati averages 21.9 points per game, Pittsburgh 15.9 points per game. And on defense, Cincinnati gives up 22.2 points per game, Pittsburgh gives up 20.0 points per game. So I have the Bengals getting the win, even without Chase. That kind of made me waffle, but I have the Bengals winning 24-20, covering the spread, and I'm going with the over as well. The next game that we'll be looking at on Saturday at 8 p.m. on Peacock, we have the 8-6 Buffalo Bills, who have completely resurrected their season versus the 5-9 Chargers. Buffalo Bills are 12.5-point favorites here. It's a pretty big spread, and the over-under is 43.5. So Vegas has Buffalo pretty much beating the crap out of the Chargers. Now, prior to this year starting, this would have been Josh Allen versus Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert is out for the season, so they're obviously going to have the backup playing. Bills have been hot as right now, so they're coming off of a beatdown of the Cowboys, and they pretty much did that without Josh Allen having to do much. So they just ran the ball down the Cowboys' throat with Cook. So that's taking a lot of pressure off of Josh Allen for Josh Allen to do Josh Allen things because they actually have a running game. That's something that the Bills haven't really had for the last few years. But when they need to throw it, they still have Josh Allen and they still have Diggs. Looking at the team stats here. So you have Buffalo coming into this game averaging 27.1 points per game. They have a top 5 offense. Chargers average 21.6 points per game, but a lot of that was with Justin Herbert. And on defense, the Buffalo has a top 7 defense, giving up 18.1 points per game. Chargers have a lot of issues on defense. They give up 24.6 points per game. So on paper, this game should not be close at all. Chargers are reeling, trying to get a good draft pick. Bills are going up right now. I have the Bills getting a comfortable win, winning 28-13. So I have them covering the spread, but I'm actually going to go with the under in this game, just because I think they do rest the offense early. But I wouldn't be surprised if, they win like a 35-10, but I'm going to go with the under as of right now. Next game that we're looking at, we're now moving on to our Sunday slate of games, Sunday, December 24th at 1 p.m. on Fox. You have the 8-6 Colts. They've been pretty hot the last few weeks, playing the 6-8 Falcons. Falcons are 2.5-point favorites at home. Over-under is 44.5. So with the Colts, Gardner Minshew has been filling in for Anthony Richardson. He's actually been having a pretty strong season so far. Whenever he's off, he's definitely off a lot. So he'll either throw 3 touchdowns or he'll throw 3 picks. But their offense has been clicking pretty well this season. Obviously, they have one of the deeper running back rooms in the country. They do have Moss, and they're supposed to be getting Jonathan Taylor back this weekend. That's going to take a lot of pressure off of Moss. That's going to take a lot of pressure off of Minshew. And they have Pittman at wide receiver. This is a pretty stacked team. When you look at the Falcons roster, they have a lot of weapons as well. Obviously, they have Bijan Robinson, they have London, they have Kyle Pitts. The big thing for them is they don't have a quarterback to get the ball to the playmakers. That's basically what's been holding them back. When you look at the team stats here, the Colts average 24.6 points per game. Falcons average 18.4 points per game. And on defense, the Colts give up 24.4 points per game, and the Falcons give up 19.9 points per game. So Falcons have the better defense. Colts have the better offense. Falcons are at home. They are the favorite. They could definitely beat the Colts, but I'm actually going to go with the Colts to win this game 24-20. So I'm going with that plus 2.5, but I'm also going with the under here. Next game that we're looking at 1 p.m. on CBS, we have the 7-7 Seattle Seahawks versus the 5-9 Tennessee Titans. Seattle 3-point favorites here. Over-under is 41.5. So this line actually moved a little from when I predicted this game. So that kind of stinks. But Seattle, they're coming off of that upset win versus the Eagles. Geno Smith didn't even play that game, so they won without him. He was cleared to play, but he didn't play. So obviously there's something going on there. Tennessee, Will Levis was banged up. Obviously, Ryan Tannehill is no longer the starting quarterback, but there's nothing really lost there because he wasn't very good. They still have Derrick Henry. They do have a defense under Vrabel that shows up some games. They are very physical. They can shut down the run. Sometimes they give up some points, so it's kind of a 50-50 thing there. When you look at the team stats here, so Seattle comes in, they're averaging 21.4 points per game. Tennessee's averaging 18.2 points per game. And Seattle gives up 23.9 points per game. Tennessee gives up 21.5 points per game. So the teams are kind of going in different directions as of right now. But Seattle is riding pretty hot with that beatdown of the Eagles. And they are the favorites, 3-point favorites. I have Seattle getting the win here, 20-17. So I have it right at the push. I wouldn't be surprised if that line moves down by Sunday. But I have them winning 20-17. And I'm going with the under here as well. A lot of unders, but there's been a lot of unders this season so far. Next game that we're looking at 1 p.m. on Fox, you have the 10-4 Detroit Lions versus the 7-7 Minnesota Vikings. Detroit is 3-point favorites here. The over-under is 47.5, so this is kind of a higher scoring game. The Lions have had a pretty bad second half of the season. Their offense has had a lot of turnovers, and the defense has been getting torched. They had a top 10 defense, top 10 offense first half. Second half definitely has not been that way with the defense, but they did play better the last 2 weeks, and the offense has been cutting down on the turnovers. Lions have a pretty good roster. They have Goff at quarterback, they have Montgomery at running back, they have St. Brown at wide receiver, so they can beat you multiple ways. They can beat you on the ground, they can beat you through the air, and their defense is capable of playing well. Hasn't played well, but it is technically capable. Vikings, they're one of those teams you just don't know what you're getting. They're so beat up this year. They lost Cousins. They lost Justin Jefferson. They brought in Josh Dobbs. He played well. Then he was a complete disaster. They got rid of him. So they're kind of just bouncing everywhere, but they continue to win. They're still 500 even with all of those losses. So they can beat anyone technically because they're a very competitive, disciplined team. But the Lions are the favorites here. Looking at the team stats here, the Lions come in, they're averaging 27.3 points per game. They have a top 7 offense. Minnesota averages 20.7 points per game. It's actually pretty good with all of their injuries. And on defense, the Lions give up 23.6 points per game. Minnesota gives up 19.2 points per game. I have the Lions winning this game, 28-20, covering the spread, and I'm going with the over here. The next game we have at 1 p.m. on CBS, we have the 4-10 Washington Commanders versus the 5-9 New York Jets. Jets are 3-point favorites here. Over-under is 37.5. This is one of those games that is a complete toss-up because both of these teams honestly stink. So this is a game that's just who's going to stink the least, basically. So that's kind of going into that game kind of blind because both teams, sometimes the Commanders can score a lot of points. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes the Jets offense shows up. Usually it doesn't, but they have a really good defense. So does the Jets defense shut out the Commanders offense? I don't really know. Both teams are kind of complete disasters right now. Jets, it's not their fault. They lost Rodgers. He has now been cleared to play, but probably is not going to play this season. Zach Wilson got hurt. Trevor Siemian. Outside of Rodgers, the quarterback situations that's what's holding the Jets back because they have a very good defense. For the Washington Commanders, Ron Rivera is definitely going to get fired the minute this season ends. Should have been fired a couple years ago. He's still there. Better be fired after this year. But Sam Howell is technically capable of going off. He can throw for a lot of yards, but he gets sacked a lot. He gets hit a lot. And Jets have a pretty good offense. Sorry, they have a pretty good defense. Looking at the team stats here, the Commanders come in. They're averaging 20.1 points per game. The Jets a measly 14.4 points per game. And on defense, Washington just gets torched every week. They're giving up 30.2 points per game. Thankfully, the Jets can't score. But if they ever could score, this is the week. And the Jets give up 20.5 points per game, which is really good considering the offense could not buy a first down. I'm going to go with the upset here. I have Washington winning 17-14, so I'm going with the +3, and I'm going with the under. I have zero confidence in that, just to be honest. I would not bet on this game. Like I said, both teams are lousy. They're just lousy in different areas. Jets have a god-awful defense. Sorry, Commanders have a god-awful defense. Jets have a god-awful offense. So how does that equal out? It's kind of 50-50. It could go either way. The next game we're looking at 1 p.m. on Fox, you have the 6-8 Green Bay Packers versus the 2-12 Carolina Panthers. Green Bay 5-point favorites here, and the over/under is 37.5. Packers had a pretty sloppy first half to the season. They did kind of pick things up the second half. Jordan Love has been playing a lot better. Last 2 or 3 weeks, he's been kind of questionable, but they have looked overall better the second half of the season, and their defense has been playing better, particularly at stopping the run. With the Panthers, obviously this team is a complete disaster right now. They did get their second win of the season, so props to them, scoring 9 points and things like that. The offense has a lot of question marks. Actually, the whole roster has a lot of question marks. They have a bad offense, they have a bad defense. So 0 redeemable qualities right now. They must get weapons for Bryce Young. They have no first-round picks. They have basically nothing to lose for as of right now because they're not going to get rewarded with a draft pick. But they do have Bryce Young. If he is the quarterback of the future, they do have to find a way to build around them. They did fire their coach first season. So a lot of question marks there. Quarterback, offense, defense, and coaching and ownership. Looking at the team stats right here, Green Bay averages 21.4. Carolina averages 14.7. On defense, Green Bay gives up 21.5. Carolina gives up 24.9. As we said, Green Bay 5-point favorites, over under 37.5. I have Green Bay getting the win here, 31-20, so beating them handedly, covering the spread, and I'm going with the over. Then at 1 p.m. on CBS, we have the 9-5 Cleveland Browns. This team is so beat up, but it seems the more injuries they get, actually, the better they keep playing. So props to them. They'll be playing the 8-6 Houston Texans. Both teams in the playoff hunt right now, so both have a lot to play for. Cleveland, they're 3-point favorites here, and the over-under is 39.5. Browns, obviously, they lost Chubb. They lost Watson. Doesn't matter. Ford stepped right in at running back, and they signed Joe Flacco basically right off the golf course. He came in there. Joe Flacco's been playing really well. Flacco knows just rely on your defense. Don't do anything stupid. If you have to get first downs, get them. Don't try to win the game. Just make sure not to lose the game. For the Texans, they have the offensive rookie of the year. They have C.J. Stroud. He was banged up this past week. Hasn't been cleared to play as of Sunday, but I'm going to be basing this off of him playing. He should be back is what I'm thinking. So that gives them a lot of relief there. C.J. Stroud and Collins at wide receiver. Looking at the team stats here, Cleveland averages 22.1 points per game. Houston a very close 21.9. And on defense, the teams are pretty even. Cleveland gives up 20.6 points per game. Houston gives up 21.1 points per game. So with Joe Flacco protecting the ball, Cleveland has a really good defense. They get after the quarterback. I have Cleveland winning this game, 24-20, covering the spread, and I'm going with the over here. The next game that we're looking at is at 4:05 p.m. on CBS. We have the 8-6 Jacksonville Jaguars. They're on a 3-game losing streak right now, so they need to get things back on track because their playoff window is getting smaller and smaller, so they have to get back in the win category. They'll be playing the 7-7 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who somehow are still technically in the playoff hunt. Tampa Bay, 3-point favorites here. The over-under is 40.5. So the reason Jacksonville is not the favorite is obviously they've completely fallen off the rails the last 3 weeks. They've been banged up. The offense hasn't been playing well, and the defense hasn't been playing well. Trevor Lawrence Did get knocked out the last game. He's in concussion protocol. Has not been cleared as of right now. But I'm going to be basing this off of him playing. So keep that in mind. Tampa Bay, Baker Mayfield having a really strong season so far. Putting up some pretty good numbers. He's not doing anything to lose this team the game. He has playmakers at wide receiver. He's just relying on them, running the ball, playing sound defense. They have a pretty good rush defense. So he's just keeping the game within the field, not trying to do too much. Like I said, I'm going to be basing this off of Trevor Lawrence being cleared by Sunday. He's pretty much been banged up the whole season, so it's kind of normal. Jacksonville, they average 22.8 points per game. Tampa Bay averages 21.1 points per game. On defense, Jacksonville gives up 22.4 points per game. Tampa Bay gives up 20.7 points per game. I have Jacksonville getting the upset win. I have them winning 27-21, so going with the +3, and I'm going with the over. Like I said, though, I would hold off on this. I'm basing this off of Lawrence playing. If by Sunday he hasn't been cleared, Tampa Bay is probably going to win this game. Next game at 4:25 p.m. on Fox, the 3-11 Cardinals versus the 5-9 Chicago Bears. Chicago's coming into this game. They are 4-point favorites here, and the over-under is 43.5. You have two quarterbacks who have pretty decent arms, two quarterbacks who can scramble, who can run. For the Cardinals, they have Kyler Murray back at quarterback, and they have Connor at running back. The Bears sitting at 5-9. Justin Fields did lose. Well, he did miss out a lot of games this season. He was pretty banged up. But he can light things up when he's on because he can throw it, and he can also run for about 60 to 80 yards per game when he has to. When he doesn't play well, they don't look well. As of right now, we don't know what the Bears' plans are going forward at the quarterback position. A lot of people have them drafting a quarterback in the top 5 picks. Do they keep Justin Fields? Are they trying to showcase him here at trade bait? We don't really know as of right now. Looking at the team stats here, the Cardinals average 18.5 points per game. The Bears, 20.5 points per game. And on defense, both teams have a lot of holes. The Cardinals give up 26.9 points per game, and Chicago gives up 23.5 points per game. The better quarterback to me, as of right now, is Justin Fields with more at wide receiver. That's a pretty good combo. I have the Bears getting the win here, 27-24. So I'm going with the +4 here. I do not have them covering the spread, but I will be going with the over. Next at 4:25 p.m. on Fox, you have one of the better games so far this year. The 10-4 Dallas Cowboys versus the 10-4 Miami Dolphins. Both teams trying to get to 11 wins. Miami is a 1-point favorite here, so this game's virtually a pick-em. Over-under is 49.5, so Vegas has this being a higher scoring game. Cowboys, they're coming off of that beatdown this past week versus the Bills. They need to get the ship right. They need to get the offense going. But they have the number 2 offense in all of the NFL, and they have a top 5 defense. So they're still a very strong, very tough team. With the Dolphins, obviously, their defense was pretty questionable first half, but it has actually come along the second half of the season, particularly with the run defense. They have a very good run defense, so they'll be looking to shut down Pollard and force Dak Prescott to beat them through the air, trying to get the ball to CeeDee Lamb. Dolphins have a stacked offensive roster. They have Tua, Mostert, Achin, Hill, Waddle, Berrios, lots of weapons. Looking at the team stats here, Dallas, the number 2 offense, scoring 30.8 points per game. And Miami, just in front of them, the number 1 offense, scoring 31.5 points per game. So they're virtually dead even there. And on defense, Dallas gives up 18.9 points per game. Miami, 21.0 points per game. Miami has a problem beating over 500 teams, but they play really well at home. So I have Miami getting the win, 30-24, covering the spread, and I'm going with the over. If Dallas wins this game, swap the score, I would not be surprised, but as of right now, I have the Dolphins winning at home. Final game for Sunday at 8:15 p.m. on the NFL Network, the 3-11 Patriots versus the 7-7 Denver Broncos. Denver 7-point favorites here. The over-under is 34.5. Obviously, the Patriots, they just recently won their 3rd game. A lot of people had them pegged trying to get that top pick, trying to either draft Caleb Williams or Drake May, but Bill Belichick did pull a win out. We don't know if Bill Belichick's coming back next year. If he is, they need to try to lose out to ensure they get a top pick. If he's not and he knows he's getting fired, he's going to try to win as many games as possible because he's just a couple games off from Don Shula's win record. For the Broncos, obviously, they have a decent defense. It plays well at sometimes, plays bad at sometimes. Russell Wilson is just being conservative, not trying to do anything to cost his team the game. But they have the way better roster because the Patriots roster is just awful. It is what it is. They need to rebuild. They have a good ownership, but they have to start over. Looking at the stats, New England averages a very, very pedestrian, pathetic 13.3 points per game. That's dead last. Denver averages 21.7 points per game. And on defense, the Patriots have a decent defense. They average 21.4 points per game. Denver averages 25.1 points per game. I have the Broncos getting the win here, 23-17. So I'm going with them not being able to cover the spread. So going with that +7. And I'm also going with the over, though. Moving on to Christmas Day, Monday, December 25th, 1 p.m. on CBS. The 6-8 Raiders versus the 9-5 Chiefs. Chiefs 10-point favorites here. Over/under is 40.5. So they have this game being a pretty good beatdown. Raiders obviously got shut out 2 weeks ago. Then this past weekend they scored like 62 points. What do you make of that? I don't make anything of it. Raiders have a really bad offense. They have a good roster, but they don't have a quarterback. That's their biggest problem. With the Chiefs were on a 3-game losing streak. They finally won this last week. They still have issues on the offense. They still have issues outside of Kelsey, someone establishing himself as a number one threat. And it's definitely not Tony, because Tony drops every single pass that comes his way. Pacheco, though, is a pretty decent running back. Looking at the team stats here, Kansas City comes in. They're averaging 22.8 points per game. The Raiders average 18.9 points per game. Their issue is the quarterback. And on defense, Kansas City has a top 3 defense. So they can get after the quarterback. They can hit them. They give up 17.5 points per game. And the Raiders give up 20.0 points per game. So they have a decent defense. Kansas City has the better offense. They have the better defense. I have Kansas City winning this game 27-17. That's coming in at the push. I would not be surprised if that line does come down. But Kansas City is just the way better team. So they'll win 27-17, the push, and I'm going with the over. Next game that we'll be looking at 4:30 p.m. on Fox, the 5-9 Giants versus the 10-4 Eagles. The Eagles are 13.5-point favorite here. Massive spread. Over/under is 42.5. So another expected beatdown. Obviously, the Giants, they're really going nowhere. They signed Daniel Jones, that big contract. He's a complete disaster. Tommy DeVito, though, has lit a spark for the Giants. Props to him. He's been playing really good, filling in. Has kind of gotten the team going for the last 3 to 4 weeks. With the Eagles are on a 3-game losing streak. They have to right this ship. The season's almost over. You want to go into the playoffs hot, riding a winning streak as of right now. So they need to right the ship. Who better than the 5-9 Giants? This is not a good team. They have the chance to beat the crap out of them and get that offense going. But they have a stacked roster. You have Hurts, Swift, Brown, Smith, lots of weapons there. They just need to get everyone clicking at the same time, basically, because Hurts has been banged up. Hurts has been hurt, and he's also had a lot of turnovers this season. Giants average 13.5 points per game. That's just above the Patriots, but it's really bad. And the Eagles average 25.6 points per game. On defense, they're basically tied. Giants give up 24.1 points per game. Eagles give up 24.4 points per game. I have the Eagles getting the win here, 30-17, covering the spread, and I'm going with the over. The final game for Week 16, last Monday night game at 8:15 on ABC. The 11-3 Baltimore Ravens versus the 11-3 San Francisco 49ers. Hands down, the game of the weekend. The number 1 and the number 2 team in all of the NFL vying for who's going to get to 12 wins first. San Francisco is 5-point favorites here, and the over-under is 46.5. So we have top 5 offenses here, top 5 defenses playing. Obviously, the Ravens put a lot on Lamar Jackson. He basically carries the offense right now, but they have a really good defense also. 49ers have probably the best overall roster in all of football. They had a great defense, and they added Chase Young. Defense got even better, and on offense, they're loaded. Purdy, McCaffrey, Ayuk, Kittle, Debo, lots of weapons there. Looking at the total team stats here, the Ravens come in, they average 27.4 points per game. 49ers average 30.4 points per game. 49ers have the number 3 offense. Baltimore has the number 4 offense. And on defense, these teams are loaded. Top 3 defenses. Baltimore only gives up 16.1 points per game. San Francisco 16.7 points per game. These teams are virtually deadlocked in all of these statistical categories. This is a really good matchup. It's 50-50. It could go either way. I have the 49ers winning 24-20. So not covering the spread, and I'm going with the under. Can Baltimore win this game? Yes. If they win, would I be surprised? No. But as of right now, these teams are fighting to be who's going to be at the forefront of the NFL by Week 16. So that's my breakdown of the Week 16 best bets. Hit that like button and subscribe. If you have any comments, any opinions, drop it in the comments below, and I'll make sure to respond. Thanks.